What do overflowing blue bins, a shutout on home ice, and a diplomatic tightrope with China have in common? They all landed squarely on Toronto's doorstep this week. Quick weather for Toronto. High 0 degrees Celsius, low -4 degrees Celsius. No rain or snow expected. Let's start on our streets. Toronto's new privatized recycling rollout has been anything but seamless. Circular Materials, the firm now running Ontario's Blue Bin collection, says a January 1 start date collided with the holidays and nasty weather. But for many residents west and east of Yonge Street, that explanation doesn't make the curbside piles disappear. Bins sat uncollected for days, and promised extra pickups often didn't materialize. Peel region alone logged more than 2,000 complaints in a single day. The intent was a smooth handoff. The reality has been missed routes, spotty communication, and growing frustration. If this is a systems issue, residents want a systems fix, clear schedules, live updates, and a short-term surge in trucks and crews to catch up. On the ice, the Maple Leafs delivered exactly what the city needed, a statement win. William Nylander returned from a 6-game absence and looked like he never left, 1 goal and 2 assists, as Toronto thumped Vancouver 5-0. Joseph Woll was perfect between the pipes, with 29 saves for his second shutout of the season. The Leafs have now won 3 straight overall and 7 in a row at home, while the Canucks, who also saw goaltender Thatcher Demko leave with a lower body injury, dropped their 6th straight and sit last in the Pacific Division. It's early yet, but this is the kind of January form that banks points and builds habits. Across the hardwood, a different story. The Raptors fell 125-117 to the Celtics, snapping their 3-game win streak. RJ Barrett exited with a left ankle injury and didn't return. He'll undergo further evaluation. According to head coach Darko Rajakovic, Toronto was already banged up, with injuries thinning the rotation. Still, the Raptors battled, trimming a sizable Boston lead and showing some grit under pressure. The Celtics got big nights from Peyton Pritchard and Jaylen Brown, and, in a fun wrinkle, leaned into a scouting approach that reads like an NBA 2K playbook, identifying opponents' badges or signature strengths to exploit. For the Raptors, the near-term question is health. Can they get key contributors back quickly enough to keep momentum alive? Zooming out to national headlines that touch our city, Prime Minister Mark Carney is in reset mode with China, carefully. He's drawing guardrails around the relationship, especially in artificial intelligence, critical minerals, and defense, while trying to diversify Canada's export picture and reduce our overwhelming reliance on the U.S. The goal: double non-U.S. exports over the next decade, with China a primary focus. An ongoing Canada-China trade mission is part of that push, and Carney is set to meet President Xi Jinping to tackle trade irritants and explore openings in agriculture and agri-food. But it's not a free skate. Ontario Premier Doug Ford wants existing tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles maintained to protect domestic auto jobs, even as China retaliates. British Columbia officials, on the other hand, see potential upside, new markets for energy and resource firms if the relationship stabilizes. For Toronto's finance and tech sectors, the message is mixed. Opportunity in new markets, caution around security-sensitive tech like AI, and a trade environment that could shift quickly. Trade friction is flaring elsewhere too. Several U.S. industries accuse Canadian competitors of routing cheap Chinese materials into finished products, think cabinets, then exporting them south to sidestep duties. American businesses say this violates free trade rules and squeezes their margins. If these claims gain traction, expect more inspections, potential penalties, and pressure on Ottawa to tighten origin tracing. For GTA importers, manufacturers, and logistics firms, the compliance stakes just inched higher. Meanwhile, the U.S. oil playbook is reshuffling the deck for Alberta and beyond. After Washington's intervention in Venezuela, Canadian heavy oil prices, Western Canada Select, have slumped to the widest discount versus West Texas Intermediate since July 2024. A deal announced by President Donald Trump could send up to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan crude to the U.S., potentially reducing American reliance on Canadian barrels and weakening Ottawa's leverage in broader trade talks under the Canada-US-Mexico agreement. Energy analysts caution that Venezuela can't flip a switch. Scaling output meaningfully will take years and billions in investment. Still, the mere prospect is moving prices and leverage. Those developments feed into a larger geopolitical storm. Canada has reaffirmed support for Venezuelans' democratic rights following the U.S. military action that, according to multiple reports, resulted in the capture of President Nicolas Maduro. Ottawa and Brazil condemned the move and urged respect for international law, warning of heightened security risks along Venezuela's borders and major uncertainty for potential oil investors. Prime Minister Carney insists Canadian oil will remain competitive even if Venezuelan volumes rise. But the geopolitical risk premium just went up. One American professor teaching in Canada argues that Canadians are underestimating the severity of the U.S. political crisis, pointing to what he calls unprecedented power grabs and threats across the region. Whether you agree or not, the takeaway is clear. The ground is shifting, fast, and Canada needs eyes wide open. Back at home, the U.S. political climate is already altering winter travel plans. Canadian snowbirds, who typically head south, are rethinking their routes after President Trump mused about Canada becoming the 51st state, a remark many took as a shot across the bow. Add in confusion at U.S. borders over fingerprinting and alien registration forms, a soft Canadian dollar, and broader economic tensions, and plans are changing. There's been a reported 15% drop in the number of snowbirds headed to the U.S. this winter, with some opting for farther-flung destinations or staying put in Canada instead. Not all trade currents are running against us. Nova Scotia's lobster industry is finding new lifelines. While Chinese tariffs have driven sales to China down roughly 40% this year, exports to markets beyond the U.S. and China jumped about 43% in October. As Carney heads to China, tariffs on seafood, canola, and electric vehicles are on the docket. For Atlantic fisheries and the broader Canadian food sector, diversification is turning from strategy into survival skill. And for Toronto's restaurant scene, it could mean steadier supply lines from a wider array of markets. So, where does that leave Toronto this week? On the ground, demand clarity and reliability on recycling pickup. On the ice, enjoy the Leafs surge and Wolves shutout swagger. On the court, hope for clean scans for RJ Barrett and a healthier rotation to keep that competitive edge. And on the national stage, follow the China mission closely. It's about AI guardrails as much as it is about containers on ships. And keep an eye on how U.S.-Venezuela maneuvers reverberate through Canadian oil and our broader trade leverage. We'll keep tracking it all, and how it touches daily life here in the city, from your curb to the Scotiabank Arena rafters to the boardrooms shaping Canada's next moves. Thanks for listening. If you found this useful, share it with a neighbor who's still waiting on a blue bin pickup, and we'll be back soon.